Bigfoot, Dogman, Jersey Devil, and others. Are they real? Figments of our imagination? Or the most cleverly disregarded reality of all time? Come into the cabin. Let's sit down and find out together. Hey guys, welcome back to the cabin. I'm Robbie.
Yeah, I'm Schizo Johnny.
I didn't try to catch you off guard this time. So how you doing today, Johnny?
I am exhausted.
Me too.
You look it.
Yeah. Did a lot of standing out in the sun today, directing traffic. Not for a good call. Well, it was for good cause, but
It was a good showing.
yeah, it had to. We had to be out there. But those who know. Those who don't, it is what it is.
It was, I was in downtown earlier. I seen the news chopper. I was like, oh God, they got to medevac somebody out. No, it was the news chopper. But it was, a lot of people came out.
Yeah, there was a lot of people there. So, it was a mass of humanity.
Yeah, very good community, very strong.
So, we kind of talked about this a week or two ago, and we had that rush, or not rush, but that surprise guests in the studio. So we didn't get a chance to do this show or talk about this, but you and I talked about, and there was some kind of maybe a little discrepancy about when it happened. We had 2 or 3 different years that were in there, but I think we pretty much settled on it was probably around 2019, right?
Yeah.
We'll just say between 2019 and 2021, 22.
Yeah, it was the last thing I saw on this was 21.
So, the Mammoth Cave system, which is, if I'm not mistaken, that's the largest cave system in the United States.
As far as I know, there are spurs coming off of Mammoth Cave that go as far as New Mexico.
Yeah.
They've been mapped that far.
It's as its name implies, it's mammoth. It's really, really big. Vast. Most of it, I would say probably 90% of it is uncharted.
Oh, yeah.
So, this kind of, and I'm going to read some of this and jump in whenever you want to, Johnny, but I'm going to read some of this article that we found, and this is coming from ABC 13. So this is not like a little fly-by-night. It's not, Wikipedia or anything like that. This is a national news organization that picked this up.
It's normie news. I mean, It's out there for everybody to see, not just crackpots like us.
Yep. Yeah. Even crackpots like us have to have the scoop every now and then. It just starts out, it says, a weekend camping trip in the backcountry at the Mammoth Cave National Park quickly took a dramatic turn for one couple. They were woken up in the middle of the night to strange noises and were met with an individual saying that something had destroyed their campsite. Brad Ginn, one of the campers, said the individual also said it was Bigfoot country, which seemed a little weird that he would say that. The individual then informed him that he was searching for whatever had destroyed his campsite and warned them to be careful. Madeline Durand, a camper said, he said, I hope you have weapons, and then he flashed his gun at us and said, I have this, so if anything happens to you, just yell and I'll come. So apparently this guy comes running into their campsite, wee hours of the morning, whatever, late at night. I'm assuming they were already asleep, and this guy come into their campsite, kind of wake them up, and tells them that something destroyed his campsite, asks them, I hope you got a gun. He shows them that he's armed, says, if you see anything strange, anything happens, call me, and I'm going to come running. That would be a little strange to me if somebody ran into my campsite at that time of the morning saying that kind of stuff. Even me being, you know, the Bigfoot believer that I am, and I think you too. Most people think that was strange.
It would definitely set off some alarms.
Yeah, there'd be a few red flags on that one. So the couple then decided to head back to their tent, but moments later they heard gunshots. They dialed 911 and hiked 5 miles back to their car in the parking lot to meet up with the park rangers. Mammoth Cave's public information officer, Molly Schroer, stated Mammoth Cave National Park law enforcement rangers responded to a reporting of an individual with a firearm in one of our backcountry campsites in the early morning hours of Sunday, July 28th. And there again, we're assuming this is between 2019 and 2021. Rangers made contact with all parties involved, and it's an open and ongoing investigation at this time. Mammoth Cave would like the public to know there are not any ongoing threats in the park, and it's safe to visit. And that's pretty much the end of the mainstream news story of it. But taking it a step further from our perspective, which we've talked about, the missing 411, Bigfoot, Sasquatch sightings, things like that, and the cave systems, you know, we've talked about that. They all line up. Mm-hmm. You know, if you lay those maps down, overlay them with each other, they pretty much match up almost identically. I've seen DA put that map up on DA Ex Machina many times when we've talked about this kind of stuff. It's really disturbing if you stop and think about how close they match. Because you got all these missing 411s, you got all these cave systems, because there's really not a whole lot of states in the United States that don't have some form of cave systems.
Yeah, and you know, I hate that he's gone, but Scott Carpenter did a bunch on this too.
Yeah.
He did a lot of good work.
Yeah.
But when you see the cave system overlay the 411, and then you look at it on the Bigfoot map, and then you look at it with the Dogfoot. Dogfoot. Yeah, when you look it up with the Dogman, I mean, all these things it's the same damn template. You just lay them over top of each other.
Yeah. I mean, you have a few little outliers here and there, but for the most part, if you look at every one of these maps, they line up. And really, this is the first mainstream story that I found that kind of almost, in a way, kind of corroborates that little theory that we've been talking about. Because they were there, this guy comes running up and says, basically, he said a Bigfoot destroyed his camp.
I'm going to do a quick Google.
What you going to Google?
Our tech guy isn't here.
Yeah.
I'm curious the distance from the LBL to Mammoth Cave.
I don't think it's far. I think we talked about this before. I don't think it's that far.
Well, it's one of those things that they're playing it off like Mammoth Cave isn't like a hot spot. Mammoth Cave doesn't do this, doesn't do that.
You know, I think when we talked about Werewolf Springs, I think, and I don't remember, so you need to Google it. But I think when we did the Werewolf Springs episode, I think we discussed that particular thing then, and I think we looked at it then. And I don't think they were that far apart. I think all three, because I think that's when we started talking about what we were calling that Dogman Triangle of Werewolf Springs, Mammoth Cave, and the LBL. Because Mammoth Caves are in Kentucky, correct?
Yeah.
And the LBL is in Kentucky and / Tennessee, and then Werewolf Springs is in Tennessee. They can't be that far apart.
And Werewolf Springs didn't want to come. Okay, there it is, just west of Nashville. It's a nice little triangle.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Does it tell what the square miles of that? Because you know, and this may be a Bigfoot thing, but that whole entire area, yeah, I mean it's
within a 2-hour triangle,
and it's within that triangle that you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yep. It's interesting.
I don't see that is a perfectly sizable territorial area for something like that, or some things like that, especially if they're using the cave systems. Because who's to say that, dogmen aren't using these cave systems too?
Yeah, and I'm not seeing anything outside of the range of a large, intelligent thingy.
Mountain lion is anywhere from 150 to 250 worth of territorial range.
Wow.
So, because depending on what you look at, some say 150, some say 200, some say 250. That's a big range for.
And think about something that's more intelligent than a cat that moves in a family group.
Yeah. Oh, DA and I speculated that a clan or a tribe or whatever you want to call them of Bigfoot would probably, I would say, around 1,200 square miles.
Yeah.
If you got, let's say you, and there again, this is all theory. This is just, me and you spitballing on this stuff. We're not saying that what we're saying is 100% accurate. This is just Robbie and Johnny's opinion. But if you're going to have an alpha male. So you're talking a 1,000 to 1,200 pound creature. Probably going to have one alpha female. Some
typical clan.
Some sub-adults, some other females. So let's say six to eight individuals.
And that's just one family.
Yeah.
You think about a clan, there's going to be multiple families involved in this.
Yeah. So you got 6 to 8 individuals of that size. 1,200 miles is not out of the realm of that may even be too small for 6 creatures of that size. Which, and if you start really thinking about how if they stayed in one area, they would completely demolish the ecosystem. They would run out of food. Yep. So they would have to keep moving, have to keep foraging, have to keep finding, like following game trails, following whatever they're eating, foraging for nuts and berries and things like that they eat on the move until they find their next big meal. And I would say that a dogman would probably do the same thing, because if you go back and look at like some of the Beast of Bray Road sightings, they'll have sightings at certain times, and then they won't have sightings again for a couple months.
Exactly.
And then they'll come back and they'll have sightings again. Well, why is that? Well,
passing through.
Yeah.
Migrating.
Exactly. Or my thing with that was look at the deer and elk migration at that time. Are deer and elk in that area during the times that they're not having the sightings? I'd say probably not.
I've heard that follow the elk theory many, many, many times over the years.
Mm-hmm.
It checks out.
Yeah. So if you're going to look at these things and you're going to investigate like it's an animal, not like it's a transdimensional entity that can teleport. If you're going to investigate these things like you would investigate any other animal, that's the kind of things and the questions that you have to ask. You have to look at the question and say, okay, what's its food source? It is deer, elk, things like that. You have to look at their migration patterns and where they're going and I guarantee you, if you start looking at overlaying those maps, they'll probably overlay with the sightings too.
Yeah.
And if these things are subterranean and go into caves like we've talked about and like we've said, and they're using those tongue clicks, which most people say are tree knocks, if they're using those for echolocation and they're navigating through these massive underground cave systems that you can go in Kentucky and come out in New Mexico, like you said, or I've heard there's one that you can go in one spot, come out in Maine. You start looking at all these things and you start building this 3D image of how they behave, their behavior patterns and things like that.
Well, when you hear all these things about how nocturnal they are, okay, that's great. They see in the dark. on a low lit moon night. But you got scientists talking about them getting blinded from a mile away with an IR pointer, and them shielding their face from a mile away with like an IR designator. They're nothing, but they're bright as hell to a Bigfoot. Okay, well, if they're that sensitive, why couldn't they see in complete pitch black and navigate the caves?
Well, I think the answer to that is that's that echolocation.
Yeah, but I mean, echolocation's fine for communicating, it's for locating certain things, but I mean, they can see in the damn dark. I mean, pitch black dark.
Yeah, and that, it may be something like it. That's the whole thing that we've talked about. Is if I think they're using echolocation, but you believe that they can see in a spectrum of there's nobody that can contradict and say no, they can't do that because nobody knows. I mean,
show me the one you got in your basement.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, until somebody's got one under a microscope and which, you know, we all know what that can of worms is. We know that that's probably happened, and at some point we may know, but we may not ever know. So, if you start, like I said, you start layering all this stuff up and start building that 3D model of behavior patterns and things like that, things like being able to see in the dark or using echolocation to navigate through these caves that are pitch black in, I'm sure, a lot of places. Theories like you and I just discussed start making a lot of sense. And
I've been in Mammoth Cave, and believe it or not, they got great fresh water in there. It was frowned upon me tasting it, but there's bugs everywhere in there. Now, they're blind bugs. These are bugs with no eyes. We're not allowed to molest them because we're visitors. But something that lives in that cave is going to eat them bugs. Mm-hmm. And everybody knows bugs are a high source of protein. On your travels, hell, grab that bag of Munchos over there.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure. If
it's better than gas station food.
If there's bugs and there's water, there's other forms of life in there too. So,
I've seen the albino crawdads that are over 100 years old.
I'm sure there's fish in those streams too.
With no eyes. I've seen them.
Yeah. They didn't see you though.
And maybe every now and then you get a tourist that wanders off and there's some bigger protein.
Well, there's been people who have gone in on expeditions and found backpacks from hikers that were way deeper than any one person could have walked in one day. So
I remember hearing these stories when I was there.
How does that bag get there? I mean,
a to-go meal?
Yeah, exactly. It's no more of a stretch for me and you to say that a dog man or a Bigfoot carried them in there than it is for somebody to say, you know, they walk through portals. I mean, you heard me on Marty's show the other night. It's just, why is that cannot be your next logical step when you say, oh, well, they disappear. Okay, well, maybe they go into caves. Maybe they're backtracking. Maybe they've got adaptive camouflage. It doesn't have to be. Look at the natural world. Animals use caves all the time for shelter, for hibernation. I mean,
most people, when they think of caves, they're thinking of that little carve out or that little niche where the bear has her cubs or the cat has, you know, whatever they have, or kittens or whatever they call it. I got 3 or 4 of them little niches on my mountain where the big cats have their things. I don't know where the bear has hers, but I got 3 to 4 cubs every year around my place. Every couple of years they get replaced with littler ones. But, you know, the Chapman University did a study on American fears. Mm-hmm. Bigfoot's way up the list because we're superstitious as a thing.
Well, that goes to that uncanny valley.
And then when you get, you know, people from the city, they don't have a clue. People from the country, we grow up in it. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of stuff that can go on that you'll never know about. I stay in the woods.
Yeah, and I've been in the woods my whole life too. And, you know, I've said it before. I can remember my great grandmother saying, don't go too far in them woods. The boogers will get you. That's just what they call stuff like that back then. I mean, you've heard it, hadn't you? You've heard that term used plenty of times.
I grew up with the skunk ape, but we didn't call them boogers. It was skunk ape.
But you've heard people call them that. Wood boogers.
And
boogers.
it's well accepted. Yeah. Local country people just know. That's one of them things that's out there.
I mean, how many stories has Cam told that people called in on it, and about boogers and about wood boogers and about just wild men or hairy men. I mean, the term Bigfoot was not around.
That's a coined phrase since the late 60s, early 70s.
Same thing with Dogman. What was Dogman called before the 1930s when that term came out? Yeah. Werewolf, Wolfman, monster. I mean, big scary thing. I mean, it wasn't called a Dogman. And that goes back to the term dinosaur was not coined until the 1800s.
Exactly.
But the term dragon is used over 100 times in the Bible.
Exactly.
So, it's all a perspective thing. If you want to look at things strictly as they are right now, and you want to look at Tyler said Dogman was called
Oops.
That's a good one. But if you want to look at things in terminology and how people view and look at things right now, dinosaurs, Bigfoot, Dogman, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, okay, that's what most people call Sasquatch, Shiatonka, Genosqua. Mm-hmm. All these are roughly the same creature, maybe different subspecies, but roughly the same creature. But they weren't called that.
That's just different tribes.
Yeah.
Sabe.
But these First Native tribes were not calling them Bigfoot. We, Americans, coined that phrase because of a news reporter that was talking about.
Whitey did that in a newspaper in a sub-article.
Yeah.
Back in the 60s.
Mm-hmm. When all the stuff started happening around Bluff Creek and that logging
Ape
camp.
Canyon and all that.
All that stuff was getting damaged. And they took the pictures, and the reporter says, Bigfoot creature.
The Bigfoot prints is what it said. That's all it said was Bigfoot prints.
And it caught. The
word stuck.
It was, to coin it in nowadays terms, it went viral. I mean.
Well, just think about this age and time we're in right now with these millennials, Zoomers, whatever we got going on. They can't keep track of what gender they are for the next 5 minutes. They relabel everything and demonize a word that we just used 5 minutes ago. Mm-hmm. So we can't trust these nitwits. Yes, all those old ancient names have been around for millennia. Bigfoot's been around for 50 years, 60 years.
Yeah.
But same critter, same MO, same pattern.
So it's not fair or even prudent as people who want to investigate this to look at this and say, it's Bigfoot. Bigfoot only do that. Look at these. You have to go and look at these teachings of these First Native, these First Nation tribes, because they were living with this. And it's the same thing with the Inca stones. You don't draw a cave drawing or cave painting of a big hairy creature, thousands of years ago, unless you saw it. You don't draw a picture on a rock 4,000 years ago of what looks like a brontosaurus or a stegosaurus unless you saw it.
I can't wait till we dig into giants, because the Indians didn't have this generic word for big thing. The Bigfoot type creature had its own name, and then they had a name for the giants. And
if you look back to when the Vikings first started coming over here, the Vikings even talked about the Skraelings.
Yes.
And you know a lot about Vikings just like I do, Johnny. If it was big enough and bad enough to scare the Vikings,
that's a whole big ball of hell I don't want no part of.
Yeah, I mean, because traditionally most people did not want to mess with the Northmen.
Was that they were called like Scrolly Eaters? Was that the translation? It was something that came out of a swamp. And these things were notorious for
Might have
eating
been.
them.
The Vikings called them Skraelings. And I don't know, I can't remember exactly what that.
I'm thinking of an Indian thing.
Yeah. This is what the Vikings called them. When they came over and started trading with the natives, and they encountered these things that they called Skraelings. And they called them big. Now, most Vikings were, 6'5" at least, and taller. And these things were bigger than they were and hairier than they were.
Hard to kill.
Yeah. So, like I said, if it scared them, because that was the whole Viking thing. Is kind of like the Sparta thing. Come home with your shield or on it. Their whole thing was to, die in battle.
Oh, it was a sin to die in your bed.
Yeah. If you
don't get into Valhalla if you die in your bed.
And that's the whole thing. If you didn't do something that Odin deemed worthy and die in
the
battle,
Valkyries would leave you on the battlefield.
Exactly. So for these things to be bad enough to scare the Vikings into not wanting to fight them or mess with them, what were they dealing with?
Once you see Lars get gnawed on over here.
Yeah. Well, but even further than that, if you go back, the word berserk comes from the Vikings, the bear zerkers.
Oh, yeah.
And the Wolfheadnar, the wolf warriors, or the wolf-head warriors. I think that can be talking about people who turned into werewolves or possibly Bigfoot type creatures.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I don't think they just drank some jungle juice and put on a skin and went to work. No. It was a little more to it than that.
Now, the movie Northman, I think, with what's his name? It was in the guy that was just in the latest Tarzan movie with Margot Robbie.
Margot Robbie's in a Tarzan movie?
Oh, yeah, she plays Jane in the Tarzan movie. Yeah, oh my. Berserkers were often depicted as turning into bears. Yeah, but that's where the term berserk or berserker comes from, that Viking term, berserker. And so werebears, werewolves, the Wolfheadnar, that was the wolf version of the berserkers. And think about the most famous Viking sword of all time, the Ulfbert. It's the wolf sword. I mean, Vikings were heavily into this. Loki's son, Fenrir, technically in Viking terminology, that was the first werewolf. So
leave it to Loki.
Mm-hmm. And I love Norse mythology.
How did Odin feel about having a werewolf grandson?
Well, I guess he liked him pretty good. But and that might be a show for another day. We start getting some Norse mythology, because there's a lot of stuff in there that's tied to. It
spans the globe.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the Nords have theirs, the Greeks, the Mayans, the Peruvians. It don't matter where you go on this planet, there's werewolf, Bigfoot, and giants. Yeah. Globally.
Yeah. But if you look at world travelers, the Vikings probably traveled more places than more people. I mean,
between the Vikings and the Phoenicians, that was probably the two most advanced.
Well, there's been Viking coins found and Viking runes found in freaking Oklahoma, of all places. What's now Oklahoma?
Mm-hmm. And then you hear some nitwit that probably went to Clemson talking about how they came in John boats and came down through these tributaries into the Mississippi, and that's the dumbest damn thing I've ever heard in my life. You're going to come in through Newfoundland, through the Great Lakes. Mm-hmm. You're going to snake your way into a creek and wind up in Oklahoma. Okay. The Mississippi makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah.
But that is a hellacious water flow. You don't sail up the Mississippi. You get speedboated down the Mississippi.
Yeah.
It's
And back then, it was probably even worse than it is now.
Yeah, because now we have levees and dams and runoffs and stuff.
But the thing with all that, and I know we're kind of drifting away from the main, but
we don't do that.
No, not us. But But the thing is, you find cave paintings. You find, so these First Nation tribes, these Vikings that were here, they were seeing things that they were painting on cave, because some of these cave paintings they've linked back to Vikings. Some of them, obviously, or a lot of them, are First Nation tribes. But you got cave paintings that are linked to Norse mythology and Vikings, but they're paintings of things that they probably saw here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I'd like to see some old Nordic maps because you remember the old maps. They would show you like the oceans, and there'd be like a boogeyman, a monster painted in this area, and something else painted over in this area, and you knew not to exceed those boundaries.
I've seen those old maps where you got this little, like a sea serpent on this side, a big frog-looking monster over here, and then something else on land. I used to love looking at those old.
I'd like to see the ones that we're not allowed to see.
Oh, yeah. Those are the ones that are locked up in the Vatican or the Smithsonian.
Smithsonian, pick one or both.
Yeah, because they both have a lot. Man, can you imagine what we could find? Yep, that's it right there, Tyler. Exactly.
Yep. Oh, right below Cuba. Makes sense. Science checks out.
Yep. Well, and talking about that, the Black Demon in was it the Sea of Cortez? Tyler, look at where the Black Demon comes from. I think it's the Sea of Cortez.
Off Baja, Mexico.
Yeah, that supposed megalodon that's been cruising around for many years.
Yeah,
they've actually got a movie coming out about it now.
I've seen the Google Maps that shows the Meg.
Yeah, but that's in that area where because we don't know. We know more about the surface of the moon than we know about the oceans. I mean,
in theory.
Well, you know what I mean. There's been more study put into the surface of the moon than into.
There's been more published.
Yeah, we know more about outer space than we do inner space.
There's been more published.
When I say we, Johnny, I'm talking me and you, the normal people, not the Smithsonian and Vatican people who have all that information. I know what you're doing. You're trying to goad me into it, but it ain't gonna work.
That's for another show.
But you know what I'm saying? It's when you look at stuff like it, like you said, published. There's way more published and referenced and talked about the surface of the moon than there is the ocean floor. Think about it. Back when we were kids, every other documentary that was on was about the ocean.
Oh, Jacques Cousteau is what I grew up on.
Yeah, me too. But you don't see that stuff anymore. Why?
They've totally backed off of it.
Yeah, I mean, you got Shark Week comes on every year, which is great. I love it. It's one of my favorite times of the year. I mean, I look forward to Shark Week when it comes out because I'm a shark nerd. Mm-hmm. But think about it back when we were kids. There was documentaries on all the time about killer whales, blue whales, sharks, octopus, squid. I mean,
they may have been reruns, but there was something on every weekend.
Yeah.
Either Jacques Cousteau or National Geographic. Somebody was doing something in the water.
Yeah. And I've been kind of watching this show on YouTube where they've kind of gone back and started remastering some of the old Mutual of Omaha, Wild Kingdom.
Oh, yeah.
I love those shows,
Oh, yeah.
Like Marlon, I'm going to sit up here while Jim goes and wrestles this anaconda.
Yeah.
Go get him, Jim.
Yeah, Marlon Perkins. He's sitting back drinking his brandy or whatever.
Meanwhile, Jim's wrestling a 30-foot crocodile in the Nile. Let's go check and see how Jim's doing. Jim's got a few more extra holes in him now.
Jim's
Merlin.
in ICU. Yeah, those were the days.
But the thing is, shows like that we grew up on, you and I both grew up on those shows. You learned stuff from that. But at some point, it got to be where we don't want to teach them about the natural world anymore. And I'm not going to get off on a tangent about what they are getting taught now, because that's a different show for a different topic, different show. But why did we get away from all that? Why did we get away from the ocean exploration? I mean, there's still people out there doing the research on these sharks and doing all this kind of stuff. But it used to be something that people were interested in, and they would show this stuff. Now they just don't. They don't show that stuff anymore.
People don't care. They'd rather watch John Wick.
True.
Than they're more entertainment than education.
Yeah, but I say that to say, about the Mutual of Omaha, there used to be all kinds of nature shows where they would go out. What's out there? What's really out there? See what I did there? That has stopped people from. Think about the hunting shows now. And think about the hunting shows now, Saturday mornings, you used to watch Jordan, don't pronounce it Jordan. Bill Jordan's Outdoors. Cabela's on the Hunt. The Bone Stalker. All those hunting shows used to come on Saturday. That was my Saturdays off before football started. I was watching my hunting shows. Now you don't see those anymore.
I haven't had a TV since 2004, but I know YouTube and things like Facebook Live, Instagram. Everybody's got a channel now.
Yeah.
They're making money off merch instead of actually having a show.
And I think that's got something to do with it, yeah. But these people that are doing these YouTube channels, they could be out there doing that stuff, and nobody's out there. I think, like we've talked about before, the Black Plague of the 21st century, keeping everybody out of the woods for 2+ years.
Yeah.
Nature has taken back over. That veil has thinned, and there's things out there that people have not seen or not being used to that's stopping people from going out in the woods and going out and exploring and looking for these things. So, and I think that goes to the cave system. I think that's why, you're starting to see stuff like ABC picking up stories like this. Whereas in years past, they would have been like, oh, well, that's a crackpot story. I'm not running that.
I'm just glad to see people that used to look at me sideways, and I kept it to myself. I didn't push what I know or what I've seen. But people now are coming up to me with man, did you see this? You believe in that? They're like, yeah, I saw it on TV. And I'm like, let me tell you something.
Okay, now let me
you
tell
saw
you
it
the
on
real story.
TV. I saw it wireless and batteries free. And then we have that talk. And then they give you that crazy look and they go back to watching TV.
Yeah.
TV really is the plague on intellectual and curiosities.
I agree. It's kind of like that double-edged sword, though. I mean, sometimes that's we all learn by it. It's just you have to be careful what you learn.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because
it's a good disseminator of information.
Right.
But what information?
There's the rub. You have to be careful what information you latch onto. Well, I think that we've uncovered a couple more good shows that we could come up with, like the Norse mythology, some undersea exploration type things. I think we could probably do another show just on things that happen in the caves. So, but not gonna spill any beans right yet. But Johnny and I have been talking about this. We've got some opportunities coming up with some other channels that it's going to be, if it works out the way we want to, this is going to be a really good thing. And
cross-pollination.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah. Be listening. I know a lot of y'all that listen to us, listen to DAX Machina, listen to Blondes and Booze, listen to Miss Naomi Finn on her show. Be listening to those shows. You'll start hopefully within the next couple weeks, maybe.
Don't forget Nona Boss. She had a great show the other day.
Yep, I was on the Nona Boss Continuum last night. That was a good show on adaptive camouflage. But be listening to those shows and our show, and there'll be some updates coming out. Just kind of wanted to throw that bone out there and let everybody kind of start wondering, what are they talking about? I think it's going to be something good. I think we're going to
Definitely. And we all grow with it. It's not a he, they, it. It's we all grow. As the community expands, we're all, it's going to rise the water. That tide's going to rise all boats.
Yep. Rising tide raises all ships, or something like that.
Something like that. I'm Southern.
Yeah. Well, Johnny, got anything else?
You say, do I need a cigarette?
Do you need a cigarette, Johnny? I said, do you have anything else to tell these nice, lovely people?
If anybody has a cigarette and an IV drip, I'm interested. No, I mean that's it's out there. Do your digs, do your Googles. There's a lot of cool stuff going on now.
And get out there and get in the woods. Be careful when you do it, of course. But get out there and look. You know, it doesn't matter what Johnny and I tell you. You know, we can tell you what we've seen all day long, but until you get out there and experience something for yourself, 9 times out of 10, people aren't going to believe this unless they get out and experience it. And you're never going to experience it if you don't get out there. So just take the precautions. Y'all know the drill. Get you a Dark Angel medical kit. Get you a scallywag knife or a Brock Blades knife. Ken Brock, who's in Anderson County, just down the road from us. Yeah.
You can't go wrong with a SOCOM.
That's true, too. So, but even if you don't want to take a big gun like me and Johnny take, you know, take something. Make sure somebody knows where you're going. Make sure you got your IFAC, which stands for Individual First Aid Kit. And if you're going to get one, don't cheap out and get a little cheap kit on Amazon. Doc's kits are expensive, but you're buying a birthday.
Yep, your next one.
Mm-hmm.
And those personal beacons, I've used them offshore fishing. We call them EPIRBs there.
Yep.
I don't know what they call them here on land, but the same thing.
I think they
you
still
can hit
call
the
them
OS
EPIRBs.
button, and you got somebody heading your way, probably in a whirly bird.
So, take your precautions. Visit darkangelmedical.com. Visit scallywagtactical.com. Both good friends of the channel. Go over to see Ken at Brock Blades if you want to get you something a little bit more custom made. He'll set you up. If you don't see something you like on there, you can get with him, send him a message. He'll make you up pretty much whatever you want. Well, not whatever you want, but within reason, he'll set you up on that. So go check all those people out. Check out Marty at the Nona Boss Continuum. Check us out on DAX Machina every Wednesday and Saturday. Check out Blondes and Booze. And Ken's website, since we don't have an official link, it's just brockblades.com. And like I said, darkangelmedical.com, scallywagtactical.com. Check out Krista and Brandy on Blondes and Booze. Also check out Tex on Texas Front Porch, Bigfoot Michigan Rob. Those are all good friends of ours that are, that we know and are friends with personally. So go check out all their channels, because there's no backbiting, there's no infighting amongst us. We can all get along and all have different opinions and get along. So yeah, go check all those other people out. Check those channels out. Check out Miss Naoma Finn. Johnny, will you look up Naoma's channel right quick? I can't remember exactly what her channel's called.
I don't. It's S Stories on YouTube.
Yeah.
That's how I've never been to her website. I just always go to her YouTube channel.
Yeah, what's her YouTube channel?
S Stories. It'll pop up. It'll say Naoma Finn on it.
Okay. So, other than that, you got anything else, Johnny?
I'm good. I'm done. I'm exhausticated.
So, check us out on YouTube. What's really out there on YouTube? What's really out there? 2022@gmail.com for if you got to email something, story, something you want us to look into. Facebook, what's really out there.
And give us feedback on the audio. We're playing with new settings.
Yeah, we're trying. We've had a couple people talk about the audio, and we poll. We're trying to work some stuff out. That's why we need the subscriptions.
If you're using a flip phone, I don't really care about your opinion, But people with decent audio, I mean, feedback's always welcome.
He's just kidding, folks. He loves you all. He's over there laughing behind the
I
noise
want
gate.
hate mail. I want mail. I want hate mail.
We'll give you Johnny's personal email for the hate mail later on. Well, that's all I got for tonight, Johnny.
That's it, man. Let's stick a fork in this thing.
All right. We'll
And
see
hit
you
the
next
trail.
week, folks. Bye.